Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Fox, and today I wanted to discuss the general loot quality in the game and why a lot of people will tell you that legendary loot farming is inefficient. What I want to do is talk to you about why the opposite is true. Why if you have... There's basically a couple of rules that you need to follow, but legendary loot farming is the place that you will get the vast majority of your double and triple god rolls, as well as your 12% crit down mods. I've got 5 of those in total, and I think 3 of them came from legendary and the other 2 came from the dark zone, which are the 2 places that all the best loot comes from anyway. There are a few reasons why legendary isn't efficient, and what I'm going to discuss today and show you some gameplay of is how you can circumvent those. One thing I've sort of noticed a lot on social media, the division pages on different social media platforms, the Discord servers, just general chatter on my YouTube channel and other sort of content creators' YouTube channels. A lot of people, and wrongly so by the way, I'm going to say this right now, this is wrong, but a lot of people will say that legendary farming is not the best way to get loot. They will recommend to hit heroic. I'm going to disagree with that. However, there are some caveats to my argument. There are technically 2.5 rules that you need to kind of pay attention. We'll say 3 rules, I suppose. I'm going to break one of them today because I'm soloing, but there are 3 rules that you need to follow when basically trying to get good loot, and if you want to approach legendary to obtain good loot. 1, you need to have an appropriate build. I'm going to use my solo backfire build today. I don't want to sort of blow my own horn too much here, but this build is really good for legendary content, be it solo or group. I'm going to use it solo today, but I use this build everywhere. I use it in heroic, I've used it in the raid, I've used it everywhere. It is fantastic because it has high survivability with high armor regen and armor on kill, and huge amounts of weapon damage with the backfire memento combo. I'm going to very quickly show you the build, but I'm not going to go into detail with it today because I've covered it in 2 previous videos. If you want to check that video, actually it'll be at the top of your screen now, and it will be in the description below along with the timestamps and everything else. I highly recommend, if you haven't watched that first, that you do, because that goes into detail on the strengths and weaknesses of the build, the pieces that you need. But please bear in mind that this is an endgame build, and that is the first of the 3 rules. You need to have a good build for legendary. Do your research. There are some great content creators out there that have come up with some fantastic builds. I know the backfire isn't for all of you. A lot of people don't agree with having to spec into bleed resistance. I think it's fantastic. Legendary content, if your state is affected, if you get foamed, disrupted, bled from the heavy backpacks, anything like that, set on fire, you're going to die at the end of the day. You're going to go down, and I don't want to have to worry about a booster hive because I want the res hive. As legendary, you're going to go down anyway with the insane grenade accuracy that for some reason NPCs have at the moment. So have an appropriate build. Take your time to farm that build in heroic, and again this kind of goes against what I'm saying, but you need to sort of get that build ready first and use your optimization to perfect your legendary build, and then once it's perfected you can take that build into legendary, which is the true PvE endgame, and into the raids and legendary strongholds, and start getting some fantastic loot for the rest of your builds. All your PvP builds, all your skill builds, your PvE builds, you can all get from Legendary Summit. The second rule is game sense and just general awareness. Again, I see a lot of this on the same platforms and YouTube channels and Discord servers and so on. People complaining that they'll try and do Summit and somebody will just run in and die. I know I do this myself all the time when I'm testing builds, so apologies to anybody out there that's match made with me in the past and I die a lot. I usually am just testing how well a build works, probably at the detriment of my teammates. But ultimately, if you are here to farm loot and you're with a group, match made, or obviously you just grouped up with them and you're in chat and so on, you need to have a good understanding of the mechanics of each room, where the spawns are, which I know is random, but you use the cues that the game gives you, the audible cues, the visual cues. Rages is a great directive for this because it's very easy to see where enemies are when you kill someone, and you'll see that in the footage shortly. And also you need to understand the weaknesses of your build. If you are running a tanky build, that doesn't mean that you can just go stand in the middle of a legendary room, because stuff's going to get behind you. You're going to get grenaded, you're going to get stunned, you're going to get killed basically. You need to play your corners, you need to play safe, you need to funnel enemies through chokes, you need to use your skills efficiently, pay attention to your medkits, to your teammates being down, to the objectives. There are certain objectives in the summit that force unlimited spawns, in the sense that if you don't capture all of the computers, for example, they'll just keep spawning. So in situations like that, A great example is, and I see this constantly, if you'll come into a room and there'll be two computers to hack and there's no enemies in the room, people will just run to the first one and hack it straight away. That's the complete wrong way to do it, because then you've forced the infinite wave of enemies to spawn and you've not even gone to the back of the room. You need to get two people on both of those computers and activate them at the same time. So it's just basic mechanics like this that you want to perfect in Heroic Summit or Challenging or Hard or wherever you're up to. You need to get these strats down. It's just as important as your build. You can have the best build in the game, you know, and you know what I like to call all the gear, no idea. That's not going to work in Legendary Summit. You need to have all the gear and all of the ideas in order to have some success. And the third and final rule is group play. If you are looking to farm Legendary Summit for loot, I know this is really weird because I'm actually about to do this solo, but for the most part you don't want to do it solo. Again, I see this so much on different YouTube channels. People are saying, I've just gone from room 0 to 20 on Heroic Summit and I've hardly got any loot solo. Well, of course you haven't, because that's, you know, you could have 2 or 3 other people that could be dropping you loot. Not only that, but the more people in your group, the more enemies that spawn, which equates to more gear drops. If you're going to farm solo, you can't go in with the expectation that it's going to be as efficient as a group. It is efficient, but it's nowhere near as efficient as a group. Not only will you clear content faster, but you know, you can just pop in the little chat box, or ideally play with clanmates and friends. You can talk to them and just say, look guys, I'm looking for Seska. If you happen to get any Seska, would you mind dropping it my way? I have, like I said before, I have 5 crit damage mods now, 12% crit damage mods. If I get any more, I just drop them on the floor, and some people don't have any, so that's a godsend to them. They could be in Legendary Summit with their team looking to get some Seska or, I don't know, whatever else, and then all of a sudden one of their teammates drops a triple God Roll Providence on the floor, or a 12% crit dam on. They're like, oh yeah, that's awesome, I wasn't even looking for that, but that's really good. You know, farming with the group is efficient for different reasons, so but ultimately I appreciate that some of you do play solo. I like to play Legendary Summit solo. You just have to appreciate that it will be slower. The reason that so many people have such a negative view of Legendary is because they've played the game too much, they've got all the best loot in the game, and as a result loot seems bad. But actually, for a casual player, somebody that maybe comes on over the weekends because they've got a family and a job that takes them, you know, out of the house a lot. I'm lucky, I work from home, so I don't have that problem. The loot seems bad, but I think what a lot of people forget is that it isn't bad. It's just, it seems bad to them because they have all the loot already and they're looking for a super rare drop that is the last thing they need for one of their builds. So it's like, oh, you know, I'm trying to farm for this piece and I've had 50 pieces and they just don't quite do what I need. Well, yeah, if you're looking for a triple God Roll pet drop with a very specific combination, the chances you getting that are probably like 1 in 500, if not higher. It's very low. You can drastically reduce those odds to make it better for yourself by just playing with a group. So just bear all of these things in mind. You know, the reason that Legendary Summit farming is viewed negatively by a lot of players is because they're not optimizing their time. And you need to look at it as a ratio of time spent versus loot gained. If you're taking too long to clear rooms because one of these 3 rules you're not following, then of course it's inefficient. But if you've got the right build, if you've got good game sense because you've played in Heroic Summit and you've got a feel for how it works, and you're playing with the team, then you're going to be clearing rooms in 2 or 3 minutes instead of 15 minutes, and you're going to go on to the next room, you're going to get rogue agents, you're going to get bosses, you're going to get loads of loot. And yes, it's not always going to be the loot that you need, but it's going to be well rolled. It's going to help flesh out your libraries. It's going to, you know, put you on the right path. And if you don't need that loot, somebody else in your team might. So drop it on the floor for them. They'll drop it on the floor for you. And trust me, Legendary loot farming is the best source of good loot in the game. I promise you it is. It's just people that say differently, don't listen to them, because all that's happening, and this is maybe no fault of their own, but they are not optimizing their time spent. They're not, you know, paying attention to those 3 rules, and as a result it will seem very inefficient to them. And the whole point of this video is to kind of educate, or maybe just sort of showcase to the newer and casual players in the game, don't listen to us old school hardcore players that have played the game too much and we're just, you know, we're not happy with it anymore. We're just kind of, it's like anything, isn't it? You play a game too much and all you ever focus on is the negatives. It simply isn't true. There's a lot of reasons to farm Legendary. Now, I've gone on about these 3 rules a bit too much now, so I'm going to quickly glaze over the build with you all. Don't forget to check out the video in the description if you haven't seen that. Do that first, I would recommend, and then come back to this. And then you can just use the timestamps below to go straight to the gameplay, where I'm going to show you the kind of loot quality drops, and to a lesser extent just how well this solo backfire build performs in Legendary Summit. Let's get started. So it's exactly the same build that I've showcased before. I know originally I didn't have the Hollow Man mask on, but I did state in the comments that, you know, that is best in slot for it. But ultimately the main purpose of this build is to take advantage of the massive amount of additional damage you gain from the backfire, 200% crit dam, in conjunction with the severe amount of pretty insane buffs you get from Memento. Memento is just the only option you should ever have on basically any solo build ever. If you're not running this, you're just going to be at a disadvantage versus running it, as all you need to do is get kills, which as a solo player you're of course the only person to do that, and you're just going to enhance every aspect of your build. What we've essentially done is spec'd every piece into Hasbro, loads of crit chance and crit damage, loads of armor regen and armor on kill. So we've got the Hollow Man mask, we've got the double Seska running Obliterate, as it's a multiplicative damage talent that pairs very well with an 850 RPM weapon, such as the backfire, Chameleon as well. You know, and the fact that we've only got 3 reds on the build, that Obliterate in conjunction with all of the trophies that we're going to be gaining from Memento, trust me, this build will melt. You'll be hitting some disgustingly powerful crits, and you'll see just how fast I melt people. If you do want to load into a heroic summit first and build up your backpack trophies, I do recommend that in the video that I just discussed. Do it. You know, again, I've had some negative comments about that. I have no idea why. This is a solo build. If you're not going to play with a group and you are going to play solo, who cares if you go into Heroic Summit and spend 10 minutes building up some backpack trophies so that your time in Legendary solo is more efficient? That is the whole point of this video, the whole point of this build, and the whole point of Legendary Summit. You are there to get loot, utilize any... If you want to call it a cheese, go for it. You know, whatever you want to call it, I don't really mind. But if you utilize any strategy that you can to improve your chances of blasting through each room and getting as much loot as you can, and if that means doing 2 floors on Heroic Summit and coming back out to the elevator and going back into Legendary, do it. Like, don't let anybody tell you that that's cheese. It's, who cares? It's a solo build. And if you're in a group play build, do exactly the same thing. If you've got 2 or 3 of you running Memento, go into Heroic, all of you get some backpack trophies and then come back out. I have no issue with that, and nobody else should either. I'm actually going to load into this without any backpack trophies, just to showcase this build still is just fantastic. But ultimately, building the trophies first is definitely smart. If you just pop in on for the weekend and you've only got a couple of hours spare, build up 30 stacks in Heroic, and then you'll be gravy when you come into Legendary. So yeah, we're running the double Seska for the Hasbro, we're running the double Bellstone for the armor regen and armor on kill, which pairs very nicely with Gunner, by the way. I always have a AR for my secondary, although I literally never swap to this because you lose your stacks when you do, and the finisher card, just for the +1 skill tier. This means that I have 3 charges in my hive when I swap to my pistol, so if I'm playing with a team, that's 2 free reses that I shouldn't otherwise have. So yeah, that works really well. Of course, Memento gives us vast amounts of armor regen, weapon damage, additional armor and skill efficiency, so our shield becomes way more tanky. This goes up to about 5 million, I think, from the 3.9. I can't remember the exact figure. The hive, the cooldown goes down to about 100 150, 160, I can't remember the exact numbers, but ultimately Memento just buffs every single part of this build and just gives it vast amounts of synergy. But as I said before, I don't want to go into too much detail about the build today. I've already covered this in a previous video, so please watch that first if you haven't already. Let's quickly load into that summit. Let's show you all the kind of loot drops that we can expect, and we'll go from there. So what I'm going to do is set up some directives. If you read on the right hand side there, each active directive slightly increases the chance for a targeted loot item to drop alongside a normal loot drop. So when you're playing with a team, choose the directives that both benefit your team. If you're all running skill builds and healer builds, you don't really want to be running cool skills or scavenge skills unless you are very competent and experienced, and that comes to those first 2 of those 3 rules. If you've got very good builds and you have great game sense and game awareness, you probably can do these, and in fact there are some directives that reward you for doing so. I never do it though. I don't want to make it, the whole point of this is to be an efficient loot farm, not to prove, you know, how good you are as a player in Legendary Summit. So just pick the ones that are easy. No regen is an obvious one. If you've got a healer or you're running an armor regen build, that will literally, you know, you have no detriment to running this. Hard to earn, also really easy. Half the time when I put this on, I still load in with 4 armor kits anyway, so I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, I always stick this on. Fog of War, ironically, is the one that kills me more than any other directive here, but I'm still going to run it because it is technically easy, and this is a great way of seeing how good your game sense and game awareness are. If you are constantly getting flanked and dying from behind, I hate to say it, but it means that your game sense isn't where it needs to be. And, you know, I'm not being rude there, mine isn't. You know, I constantly die to this particular directive, and that's something that I need to improve on. But that's a great way of highlighting your awareness of enemies in the room. If you're getting killed all the time because they're flanking you, it means you're not paying enough attention. You know, Fog of War will highlight that for you, and it's just something you know you need to work on as a player, as I myself desperately need to do. And then finally, Rages. I like this one. All it does is when you kill an enemy nearby, it passes on a bit of their health as an overshield, and when that bar fills up, they gain a green bar. Makes no difference. We're running the Hollow Man damage to health. You know, you'll blast through that anyway, and it's actually a great way to highlight where enemies are, as it flags up their health bars when you kill an enemy. Very powerful if you're running the no radar one. So we'll select those 4 on. Difficulty, obviously legendary. I'm not quite sure what floor we're on, but let's have a look. Right, let's see how we get on. So this is perfect. We've actually just come up against rogue agents. Now you can see, if you look at the bottom, yes, I know I have my radar at the bottom, which throws a few people off, but for PvP that's actually really smart positioning, as you don't need to look at the top of your screen all the time. It's just kind of there as you're aiming in, which is a really good swap, by the way. If you haven't tried out having your radar at the bottom, I highly recommend it. Takes a bit of getting used to, but once you do, you won't go back. But anyway, you can see on that radar there, you can see I'm on legendary with those 4 directives. You can see on my buff bar that I have no backpack trophies built up. So this is less of a how good is the loot part of the video, and more of a, you know, how well this solo backfire build works. I've already got full armor, haven't I? Full ammo. Yeah, let's see if we can kill these 2 without going down. And you know what, if you go down, don't worry about it. You're going to build up enough backpack trophies, you'll get your res side back all the time. Having a good build in legendary doesn't mean not dying ever, it just means dying as little as possible. That still means occasionally dying, especially against rogue agents when I only have 1% armor regen as opposed to the usual 4%. So this is what I like about Backfire versus Chameleon. I've seen a lot of really good Chameleon builds. Whoa, that was way too much damage. Yeah, a lot of really good Chameleon builds, but my issue with Chameleon is you don't get the damage buff until you build up the stacks. That isn't true for Backfire, you get the stacks straight away. Oh, I hate those. Those oxidizers are broken as well, they need to patch those. This guy's going to push us. We're in a situation here we have no backpack trophies, so we don't have very good armor regen. Our skills aren't going to come back very quickly, and this is kind of always one of the downsides of memento builds. They're fantastic whilst you've got trophies, and this is why I always recommend just build up your trophies first. You know, go into heroic and build them up first. If you're here to get loot and you're by yourself, do it. I'm stuck on bucket apparently. Good thing as well is you can build up your stacks from distance as well. It's not like a this guy's got a shotgun. I need to get some distance from me and him. Just melt my shield too quickly. Trying to save my shield and kind of flick between my shield health and my personal health. Again, this comes back to what I'm saying. Game sense and game awareness. It's knowing when to use your skills and how to use them. If I had a high armor regen here because I had some trophies built up, I'll probably put my shield away at this point because my armor regen would have, you know, got me up to probably full by now. Oh god, I didn't even see this guy. Ah! So I use my grenade here. That's going to force him to dodge roll, which gives me a chance to get into cover and get my armor kit off. Again, this build is a little bit hairy without your trophies, but shield to break. You might not have much of a choice here. Oh, as if he's put up another drone.
Serious trauma. System malfunctioning.
We've now got no armor kits, which is not great news. We're going to hit fire a little bit here. Is it safe for me to go grab that trophy? Probably not. Perfect. So again, use your grenades. There's a good chance you won't capture them as I just did, like that. It'll force them to dodge roll, but it gives you that little bit of respite where they're not shooting you because they're dodge rolling, and then you can use that time to just put some more damage on them. We'll have a look at that loot in a second. I'm just going to pick up these trophies to get some bonus armor and some bonus weapon damage and hopefully maximise that uptime. Because this is a Hasbro build, that EMP lasted hardly any time at all. There we go. And even if I went down here, I've still got 2 charges in my hive, so perfect. Right, let's go and have a look at the loot. So yeah, you know, what happened there was kind of a good example. I had no trophies on the build. You have to really sort of pay attention to rule number 2. Rule number 1 is having the good build, which this build already is. Rule number 2 is that game sense and game awareness, and that's just smart things. Playing your corners, using your grenades, using your skills appropriately, setting yourself up where you can't get flanked, and you know, even with no trophies I was still able to kill those 2 agents. Yes, it was difficult, but I did it. So let's have a look. We've got a Alp Summit backpack with skill haste and weapon handling. Now the first thing, a lot of you sort of hardcore players out there that fall into the same category as myself, which is where you play the game probably too much, let's be real. A lot of us old school Division players do play it too much, and that's why we focus a lot on the negatives and less on the positives. But this is fantastic. This is well over 75% on both stats, and I could just roll that weapon handling to repair skills, and then I've got a holster there. I know future initiative exists, but again the point is the same. All of these stat rolls are high. They might not be what you want. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this backpack. As a solo backpack, I could roll that to crit damage, a little bit of optimization, and that will be triple god roll. And then Unstoppable Force is a very powerful multiplicative talent, 25%. You know, this is great for solo builds, so you won't always get the minor attributes that you want, but you will always get well-rolled minor attributes. And the faster you can clear rooms utilising those 3 rules, the more likely you're going to get the stuff that you want. If you're playing with sort of more casual players, somebody could probably use that backpack or even this holster. You know, that's all loot that could be used. But if it's not, don't worry about it. Don't let it put you off Legendary Summit. You will get stuff that is good very quickly. You'll get, I mean, I got an exotic over here, didn't I? Yeah, I forgot about that. There we go. So, I mean, I got a memento from the first enemy that I killed. And look at those rolls, 14.1. That's, what, maybe 3 rolls on that? Possibly 2 from the optimization station, and that's triple god roll. Percussive maintenance. This is actually a really nice backpack for one of my other builds. Skill haste and status effects. You know, I could just roll that 2 skill damage or repair skills or something. It's, yeah. So these rolls are fantastic. I'm going to break both of those down because I have them both. But and that's literally just the first room. I know they were rogue agents. Let's try a couple more rooms, see what the loot is like there, and again sort of showcase the build. Right, room number 2. Now in a situation where I have low armor regen. I need to get in combat for the armor regen to kick in. So again, this all comes down to that rule number 2, your game sense and your game awareness. I've no armor kits right now. I've only got a few backpack trophies, as you can see there. My health is quite low. If I get into combat, start building up stacks and distance. Now I know I'm using this like an AR, but again, this all comes down to the same thing, that I'm going to build up stacks. So by the time they get close like that, I'll do tons of damage. And already you see my armor regen is flying up, so that's perfect. They get in this guy's face, keep this wall to my right, which means nothing can shoot me in the back or the right. Kill him, pick up his trophy. And it's just little tips like this, you know, little things. And you'll see a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but people that will run into rooms or just position badly and then complain that they don't like Legendary. It's like, well, yeah, it's because you're killing yourself. You need to just play smart and improve what you're doing as a player. And that's I think, the biggest thing that I had to overcome. You know, I'm not a particularly good player at this game. I spend a lot of time playing it, so I've learned from my mistakes, don't get me wrong. But, you know, if I was trying to do this with a subpar build and my aim wasn't quite where it needed to be and I didn't really understand where the spawns were or what was going on, then I'd probably struggle. And I probably would have died like 3 or 4 times by now. But this, I mean, this feels easy. This is legendary content, and I'm killing. I know they're only red bars, and I've obviously got damage to health on the build, but you know, this doesn't feel difficult. The old left to right flick shooting just to get those headshots on. So like there, I heard that came from the left. I was paying attention. I saw that there was a door there to the left, and that's another good thing to do. Pay attention to where the doors are. It is random which one they'll come through. Could be any of these doors. So I've got my headset on, obviously. Pay attention to where you hear them coming out. With no radar, it's quite hard to know. Unfortunately, we didn't get any loot from that room, which is a solo player you will find from time to time. But I cleared that in no time at all. And this is a live commentary. I would have done that a lot faster if I wasn't talking to you guys. Oh, there's a heavy right outside this door. Perfect. This is another little strap. You don't have to open the doors if you don't want. I'm not really a fan of doing this personally. If I'm in a group, I'll always open the doors. I don't like it when we just sit behind them. But as a solo player, this is actually a pretty good idea. But as I'm feeling brave, and I do kind of want to demonstrate just how... Oh, I nearly died just opening the door. I did die opening the door. I was about to say I want to demonstrate how good this build is versus a Chunga, and then instantly die to a Chunga. I'm going to blame the door animation there. Let's get into cover and pop that one armor kit that we just got. So you notice I'm not bleeding here? shot from behind. Again, that's another little strat. They see that red thing on the wall. All little things like this. You all learn this over time as you become a more experienced player. And just, don't base your opinion of Legendary because you're not familiar with it. Because as you become more familiar with it, you'll be absolutely fine. Right here, I'm just keeping my shield up and playing here. Shields, a great sort of bit of advice for shields is they are used to supplement existing cover, not replace it entirely. I learned that from Overwatch actually. So what I mean is, if I was here and my shield broke, where am I going to go? I could dodge roll over here, fair enough. If I'm here and my shield breaks, straight into cover in, what, a quarter of a second? So use shields to supplement existing cover as opposed to replace it entirely, because at any time you could lose your shield. What did these guys drop for me? 18% repair skills mod, that's pretty good. I mean, the max that can roll is 20%, so, I'll take that. That's an 80% roll. Tactical backpack with nearly a double god roll. Again, I know this is 511. You would never use a backpack with headshot, repair skills, and composure. For the most part, I'm sure somebody out there's made a crazy build including this, but this just proves my point. It isn't taking me long to clear these rooms, even as a solo player, and these rolls are extremely high. So, don't let the more old school players of the game, such as myself and other players, sort of talk you out of hitting Legendary, as I see so much on all these different platforms where people discuss the Division. Don't let them talk you out of it. It's a great way to improve your capabilities as a player, and you will get good loot. It might take some time. I think we're all forgetting that RNG is very much a thing in this game. So like here, for example, this is 13.5% weapon damage, fantastic. I'm actually in the process of making an explosive resistance build. I know Kamikaze Von Doom made a really good one that I actually helped him test in his video. And I'm quite keen on making a build similar to his as well, so that piece would be great for me there. But another thing you want to think about is with SMG builds, if you have everything with crit chance and crit dam, you actually go about, I think it's 10 or 12% over the crit chance cap. So you can have 2 out of 6 pieces without crit chance. Weapon handling is fantastic for SMG builds. So these gloves just here, I could have the weapon damage, the weapon handling, and crit damage. And, I wouldn't need the crit chance instead of the weapon handling because I've already hit the cap if you've got your watch level with the 10% chance already on there and everything else has chance on it. So that would be useful as well. That's pretty terrible. I don't think I'd use that in any way, shape or form. I mean, maybe weapon damage, crit chance, armor regen, and leave the vigilance on. Yeah, I'm probably not going to use any of those, realistically speaking, because I already have a pair of gloves with that on. But, this is the point I'm trying to make. I have most of the gear in the game, so for me, finding loot is going to be hard, but I have the best chance of finding it in Legendary content. I'm going to do one more room, just because I know I'm kind of hammering on a bit on this point, and I want to spend more time killing stuff instead of negatively talking about negative talkers. Oh, the irony. Sweet, sweet irony. Now, one thing that my existing subscribers will know, and the whole point of this channel is I try to promote or encourage, that's what I'm looking for. Basically, I want to improve the game health, so I want more people to play the game, I want more people to have less of a negative view of the game and have access to more parts of the game so that they can do what they need to do, and that is kind of the point of this video as well. And as you can see, this build is just ridiculous. Like, yeah, I've taken a lot of damage when I make those crazy plays, like running around in the open, but for the most part, you kill so quickly that you can kind of get away with it if you've got a bit of experience. If you haven't, just sit back. Even with an SMG build, trust me, this thing knows. Okay, so now this is actually really bad positioning. So I've spotted the guy over here. Again, this all comes down to the game sense. I'm going to pull back into this room. You cannot be in a situation where stuff is shooting you from your right because your shield won't work. You need to be in a situation where they're coming only ever from directly in front of you. So I'm actually going to sit back a little bit here. As it's Legendary, a lot of the time they do aggress you. They will push you. They keep popping shots to keep my stacks built up. I have lost them since running away, but that's fine because backfire build stacks up very, very quickly. The hip fire just to build a couple more up. Go into cover there to reload. Again, this is all time that I'm not breaking my shield down. Got a backpack trophy there, so I've got a temporary weapon damage bonus and bonus armor, which means I can not use my shield for a second. As soon as I start taking damage, just dip back into cover. Oh, that grenade accuracy. The problem I now have is I don't have any armor kits, so I bring up the shield and just do this guy quick, keep my stacks up. See you later, buddy. I'm actually going to push forward here if I can. try and break his backpack. Perfect timing. Go for the tracks on these first. Legendary warhounds or tanks, they run to their masters very, very quickly. So again, this is just utilising smart cover, you know, maximising my skill cooldowns and skill usage. I don't have a shield at the moment, so I've got to be careful because this guy's a shotgunner. And this all comes from experience. These guys always use shotguns, by the way. If they get close, they're lethal. So use your grenades to flush them out of cover. That's all time that they're not shooting into you. Now I've got my shield back, I can quickly finish him. Carry on. And this is all it is. This is all it is. It's just practicing, 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 and heroic and even legendary if you want, until you start to learn the mechanics and how enemy behaviour works, what weapons they use, the strengths and weaknesses of your build. Now that I've got max trophies, I mean, my health is shooting up, and I was able to clear that without going down there. Or, yeah, I came very close, admittedly. Unfortunately, no fruits to my labour. There was no loot dropped in that room. One of the perils of solo farming, but as you just saw, that again didn't take very long at all to clear. We're going to kill the enemies outside this door, and then I'm going to bring the video to a close. Oh, it's the loot goblin. Loot goblin, what have you got for me? Get one clipped, bro. What's he got for me? Let's have a look. Ah, that's a shame. That's the China Light. If that was anything but a China Light, if that was a Murakami, Alps, anything like that, that would be fantastic for a healer build. Overclock is such an underrated talent for healer builds and highly recommended. Look at that, 19.5% repair skills. That's nearly max, and you know, that's nearly max health. But we don't talk about health. We're not going to discuss health in this video. That's an entirely different conversation. Wyvern with very nearly max skill haste. All you got to do is roll skill damage on that. Bam, that's basically double or technically triple god roll. Yeah, we don't need those. I mean, I've seen worse shotguns. Yeah, I wouldn't use that, to be fair. I will take that mask. Everything else can go. So, that's it. That's a bit of a demonstration of the build there. For anybody that was sort of doubting the capabilities of the backfire, it is disgustingly powerful when used correctly. But, you know, I apologise if I've come across as being negative about negativity. Again, I do appreciate the irony in that. I really do want to sort of advertise and discuss, you know, healthily. So I don't want this to turn into an argument. I want people to discuss this in a healthy way in the comments and on my Discord server. Let's get talking about the loot quality in the game, and you know, for the people that don't think that legendary is worth it, hopefully I've proved otherwise in this video. I've spent half the time talking and I've still had tons of near triple and double god roll loot drops. And I'm just by myself. Imagine if I was with a team of friends and they were dropping me loot and I was dropping them loot. You know, you can have a good laugh. You can have one of you on a healer, the rest of you on skill builds, maybe one of you on this. It doesn't make a difference. As long as you play smart, you have the appropriate builds, and you're playing a group, you will get so much loot. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. Let's get that discussion going in the comments. You know, please let me know your genuine thoughts. Yeah, I'm very curious to discuss, and I want to kind of get a feel for the overall opinion of how you feel the loot quality is in Legendary. Thank you very much for watching and putting up with my constant droning on. I do appreciate it, and thank you for the continued support of the channel, as we are very nearly at 10k. If you do want to help me hit that 10k, please don't forget to like and subscribe as well, as it does really help me out. You've got my Discord server and my Twitch channel in the description below. Don't forget to go down there as well, and I do look forward to speaking to you all in the comments. Thank you very much, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.